Okay, so this is an axle drive motorized bike kit. Looks very simple, kind of getting that friction drive kit vibes because how simple it was. Just a mount, sprocket, chain, and a throttle. That was pretty much it. The kit came with an axle, just in case if your wheel axle doesn't fit. Down in here, you can replace it with this axle. This is the stock sprocket. It's a 40, I believe it's a 40 tooth or 44 tooth sprocket. It's an interesting paint job, but I'm not going to use that. I'm going to use this sprocket instead. This is a 52 tooth sprocket. So the reason why I'm using it is because this uses one of those little weed eater engines. In fact, I'm going to use that 42, is that a 42? 47 cc 4-stroke on that friction drive, and it mounts to this mount here. Pretty much any engine that has a clutch that's built in that mounts to an external clutch drum can work on this kit here. Even the 49 cc 4-strokes, you can use those for this as well, but I'm just going to use what I already have, and I'm going to kind of compare. I want to see how this works compared to the friction drive. And this little gearbox, there's gears inside, so I think it mounts like this. This way is the front of your bike. Your engine's going to want to turn this way backwards, but because it's a gear, it's going through a gear system, it actually reverses rotation. So I'm going to go ahead and select the bike. Alright, so I got my bike selected out. It's another 20-inch frame, no surprise. Oh, by the way, I do have my quadricycle all disassembled. I might cut and weld and do something else with it, but that's for the future. I might use different handlebars. I don't know, but those kind of look cool. Well, these handlebars are off that quadricycle, so but I got plenty of handlebars up there. But it looks nice with that, with these on. Anyways, like any other motorized bike, you always start with the rear wheel, start with putting the sprocket on. Unfortunately, this bike has a coaster brake on, so I'm gonna have to bend, well, you know the spiel. You have to bend this back and then bend this little piece forward, because this coaster brake arm lever gets in the way of your sprocket. Knuckle buster. Yeah, so you just put it in the vise. All you need is just a little bit more. Just bend it a little bit. Alright, so I got my bolts on right now. I'm gonna go ahead and try to align this. Okay, so I got a bit of a problem here with this wheel in particular. You'll notice that I'm missing 2 bolts, and that's because for some reason the bike spokes on this, the wheel spokes on this don't quite line up. This is one of those wheels where not every single bolt will be able to go through. Otherwise you'll hit the spoke on it, like in this area here. But because it's a coaster brake, it has a dust shield, or like a dust cap, that goes in between the sprocket and the hub, and well, it's coming into contact. Now, that's normal. Sometimes they will rub a little bit, but that's when everything is clamped down. That's when the sprocket and all the bolts here are tight. This is not tight. If you can see in here, it's like barely even threaded on, some of these bolts here, and it's already coming in contact with that dust cap. So the tighter I get this, the more it's going to bind up. You can see it's binding up a little bit. I don't even have it fully tightened down. I've also noticed I don't know if you can see that or if it'll pick up on camera. The spokes are actually bending. Now I didn't have this issue with the other 20-inch wheels, but for some reason this wheel here, this gasket is clamping more than this gasket here, and it's actually bending the spokes outward instead of the two gaskets coming together and sandwiching the spokes. Instead, they're actually bending them here. But the tighter I get, the more deflection I get with these spokes, which is not good. They shouldn't bend like that. Okay, so I did some wheel research here. So it seems like a 20-inch wheel with 28 spokes total, well, left and right, 28 spoke, 20-inch wheel will not work with the 9-hole setup, especially with coaster brakes. Now you can get away with a rag joint on a 24-inch or higher coaster brakes, but not on a 20-inch wheel. But it would work on a 20-inch. Now this isn't 20-inch, this is an 18-inch, but this one has 32 spokes, so it seems like it will work well with a 32 spoked 20-inch wheel. I don't know what, I forgot what I said before, but 36 spoke is good to use, not 28. 28s you want to avoid those because those won't line up with the holes. It is the 36 spokes that will work just fine. I'm going to go ahead and grease all these wheel bearings here, and because I cut this axle short, I'm going to have to shift the axle over so I get more threads on this side. Alright, so I got the rear sprocket on. Just a very, very slight wobble, but that's okay. Chain has a little bit of play. The rag joint here, what's good, one of the pros about the rag joint is it can account for just a little bit of play. You'd put oil in these things, but there's no gasket. In fact, this can pop off. I'm surprised it's not popping off, but there's no gasket sealing the edges. So if you do put oil, because if you don't, then you're going to have all your oil leaking out, you know. So that's why I'm using grease. It's a bit thicker. When this stuff melts, it may want to leak out over time. You know, when grease heats up, it turns like a liquid state. Temporary fix. I may, you know, in the future create my own gasket for it. I'm just going to put a shit ton of grease in here. These bolts are a little too long. We'll have to get shorter bolts for these back two. They go through this plate and into the engine mount. Got all 5 of these on. Just note when you are torquing these down, when you torque one down, it's not going to want to move because, you know, you're tightening one side, so you got to kind of alternate a little bit, you know, go back and forth like this until everything's all tightened down, and then it will move freely, because those gears, they kind of when you tighten one side, you know, it wants to shift like this, so the gears are kind of moving over. Oh, you can't see. The gears are kind of moving over to the side a little bit until all these are torqued. Then the gears will be aligned and it will rotate smoothly. Same night, I'm going to have to cut this plate. It's just hitting this right here. I forgot to get my engine on, so I got to take all this back off. I did have to cut. I couldn't find shorter bolts, so instead I just went and cut these two for these 2 bolts back here. You may or may not have to do that depending on your engine. I don't know, I'm just thinking because this is a 4-stroke, it might be just a little different back here. So close yet so far. Alright, so fortunately I had to take it all apart to try to figure out what is going on with the motor. Well, I found out what was going on with the motor. You know, I thought it was a pull start. I took the pull start off, cranking it over. Everything was fine, and then this thing was spinning over. So I couldn't figure out what the heck was going on. But I was looking down these holes, and I noticed, in fact, you could probably, let me get a light. I don't know if you can see that, but you can see where there's like a little ring in there. Well, it turns out this whole thing spins. I thought it was just this here. This whole unit spins in here. This, like, it's all one piece. I did not know that. It actually goes all the way through. It doesn't stop. It goes all the way through, and that, oh no, there's another one right in there. So that's 2 screws. I don't know if all 4 screws, all 4 screws shouldn't, because I cut 2 in half. I cut 2 down, so I think it's the 2 longer ones. I might have to cut those down too, but because if these guys are flat, so it has to be these guys that I didn't cut. They're just biting in that material. Yeah, it's these guys here. You can see them little flat marks. So it's these 2 longer ones. I'm gonna have to cut them down. Probably cut it down about 5 millimeters. Okay, it's the next day. I cut the bolts to length. I got it all put back together. I even hooked up my throttle. Yes. Oh, okay. Invest in brakes. Well, there you have it. Kind of hard to describe this one. I mean, this is kind of like one of those ridiculous builds. Again, this is on 18-inch wheels, so it's already smaller than the BMX bikes. This one is a BMX too, but it's on even tinier wheels. 18-inch wheels, 52-inch sprocket, 52-tooth sprocket back there. This is like one of those builds you don't really expect to work, but it actually did work, and it worked actually really well. Besides the engine problem, I'm thinking right now it's spitting and sputtering. It's kind of surging a little bit too, and I'm thinking it's because the fuel line back there is a little too short. When riding this thing, when you prime it and stuff, it's sucking up a lot of air. I don't see a whole lot of fuel being sucked up through this tube. I can't see through this one. This is of your pickup line, and I think this one's like a return line. Unless the tank is absolutely full, then you'll see some gas get sucked into the carburetor, but I'm seeing a lot of air bubbles. And then at times, when the engine just shuts off at random, this is completely dry, and I got to reprime it. And then it was also cutting itself off because of the kill switch they were touching. This is just temporary. I just had it so I can ride this thing and see how it works, but I'm going to have to splice and extend a wire, because this wire is a little too short. This throttle cable's okay, I could work with that, but the wires, no, I'm gonna have to splice some wires. It's definitely a cruiser. You definitely are comfortable on this cruising around town, especially with that large sprocket. It's got a lot of bottom end. I built this thing for bottom end, so it's just gas and go. I don't have to pedal assist. I can actually just rev and go. It actually takes about 2 to 3 seconds for that centrifugal clutch to actually fully engage as compared to the friction drive over there. That took about like 10 seconds. That took forever to engage, whereas this one, almost immediate. This can accelerate. It doesn't take light years like that friction drive over there. And speaking about that friction drive, so I pulled it all off, and I noticed while I was looking at the roller itself, just looking at the damage, and I don't know if you can see, get some light on that. It's damaged. It hit a rock or something hard, and it actually fractured. It took a whole chunk out of this tooth here. That's not good. That's gonna chew up your tire. This whole kit, I don't know, this whole kit's a fail. I really prefer this over the friction drive. I like friction drives, but this takes the cake. Even being underpowered, this thing can still gas and go. I don't have to pedal assist it. It'll actually take off on its own. I do want to go and get this officially fixed up and then go right around, do a top speed. If I would guess, I think it did around like 20. Felt like 20 miles an hour. I am curious to see, once I do the top speed on this with that 52 tooth sprocket, I want to do a top speed with this sprocket here. I believe this was a 44 tooth sprocket. Get that on there and see how it performs. I like the acceleration with this. Acceleration with the smaller sprocket is going to suffer a little bit, but and then after that is all said and done, I forgot I have this sprocket here. This is a 28 tooth sprocket. It's got both the 6 bolt hole and the 9 bolt, which is perfect, so I can actually put this on and test this sprocket out and see how it performs with that. So 52 tooth, 44, and a 28. Anyways, I'm satisfied with it. Like I said, I'm gonna go do that stuff off camera. So next time you see this, everything should be done. Yeah, I'm gonna go do this, put all this together. I'll see you in the next one.